The nations are scattered. The nations are disinherited. Now what? Let's think about it. Hey, my name's Justin Harrell. I challenge you to challenge yourself to think about less taught biblical topics. God responds to rebellion with judgment. But because he has a heart of compassion, he also responds with grace and mercy. At Eden, he made Adam and Eve clothing to cover their shame. For Noah, he gave instructions on how to survive a flood. But what about Babel? He disinherited the nations. They're scattered. Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High divided their inheritance to the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. The nations were given over to the lesser Elohim. We got what we wanted. How did that work out? Psalm 82, 6-7. I said, you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. God will judge the other gods for their sin and failure. God will also inherit all the nations back to himself. Jesus' victory at the cross purchased back all that was lost. He only needs to return and reclaim it. Psalm 82:8. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all nations. And Revelation 11:15. Then the seventh angel sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. But how does his reclaiming of the nations begin? It begins with one nation. A nation chosen and established by God. Deuteronomy 32:8 tells us the nations were divided. But verse 9 tells us, for the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance. Starting a business can be difficult. It takes huge investments of money, time, and patience. Owners put blood, sweat, and tears into their businesses. They put forth their best ideas, the best they have to offer on the table. And even then, most startups fail. Imagine starting a nation in a hostile world full of other divine beings who think they can do a better job. Full of men who like to judge God's character, who think they have a higher moral sense than their creator. But that's exactly what God has to put up with when he starts his nation. And even with rebellion and sin and divine beings attacking, God succeeds. So who did God pick to start this journey? Surely someone of great capability. Nope. God picks the loser. Nobody picks the loser. I remember when teams were picked in gym class back in school. I was never a team captain. I mean, you should have saw me back in the day. I was never picked first, second, third, or even last. No, I was one of the select kids who had the pleasure of being assigned a team by the gym teacher. You know, when the choices got down to the end and there was only a few of us left. The mercy of the gym teacher to prevent one of us from actually being last. But it didn't help. We all knew who were the athletes and who weren't. This was a pleasant reminder every other day that I was a loser in the eyes of the athletes. No one wants the fat kid, the dorky kid, or the nerdy kid. At times, I was all three of those descriptions. Well, guess what? God picks those people. He picks the man or woman that no one else would want. the rejects in life. 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, "But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty." God picks Abram as his starting point. Abram, an old pagan man with no children because his wife is barren. He was even an embarrassment to his name. Imagine your name meaning exalted father and you have no children. Yeah, in his culture, he would have been a loser. God picking Abram is like the NRA picking Elmer Fudd as their president. Or like picking Jabba the Hutt as the mascot for your fitness program. God doesn't start with a righteous man. He doesn't start with a young man full of energy. God picks the impossible. Genesis 12, 1-3. Now the Lord had said to Abram, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed." How are you going to start a nation without children? But God always makes the impossible possible. But God doesn't just pick regular impossible. He makes it absolutely impossible. So that when it happens, you know it was a miracle. A display of the Most High God's power and authority. He leaves no room for anyone else to take credit. Genesis 12 verse 4 says, "So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran." Isn't 75 a little old to start being a patriarch? God says, nope. Not old enough.
This doesn't bother anybody else.
God makes Abram wait 24 more years until he's 99 to show up and promise him that next year he's going to have a child when he's 100. So the guy's 100 years old and his barren wife is 90. I mean, this isn't just impossible, it's ridiculous. And you kind of understand why his wife laughs at the notion. But this is the Most High God we're talking about here. He will empower them by his Spirit. This is symbolized by the changing of their names by inserting the Hebrew letter He. Genesis 17, 5-7. "No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you." And then if we also read Genesis 17, 15-16, "Then God said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be from her." This is amazing stuff. Their son, Isaac, would not exist without God's intervention. He was literally a miracle baby. Isaac grows up to have a son named Jacob. And Jacob grows up to have an encounter with God where his name is changed to Israel. This is God's portion, his pathway to redeeming the nations back to himself. Deuteronomy 32:9. "For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance." All hope seemed lost at Babel. A little over a century goes by before God makes his move. Then he picks a couple of people that no one would believe would become the father of many nations. Through his miraculous power, the nation of Israel is born. Every Jew walking around today is a result of that miracle. Matthew 19:26. "But Jesus looked at them and said to them, With men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." And that's something we should think about.